Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing early on Friday morning here, although not where Kevin Pelton is. He's in Seattle, the machine. What's up, sir?
The night is still young out here on the Pacific time zone.
I know you get crazy late on Thursday nights. Joining us from Dallas, Texas. He hasn't covered a game in weeks. It's MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. It's not been quite weeks, but I'm going to get a good solid week plus here at home, and I'm enjoying every bit, enjoying sitting on the couch and watching some damn good series.
This happens every year. The teams that are most dominant get forgot about because there's these teams sort of, middle of the pack that are absolutely throwing haymakers at each other. And it's like, oh, I forgot Oklahoma City. Like this happened last year. Boston, sailed through the first two rounds. It was like they weren't even in the playoffs.
Boston sailed through the first 4 rounds last year.
That's true. They're 20-4 in the playoffs the last 2 years. All right. So we had a couple of games on Thursday night that went down to the final minute. And we're going to start with the misery for the Pistons in Detroit. There's similarities, but so many similarities between the game that the Pistons lost in Detroit and the game that the Bucks lost in Indianapolis 2 days ago, because in both situations they had 3 possession leads. Now the lead that the Bucks blew was in overtime in the final minute, but in this one the Pistons are at home in a vital game and they're up 7 points with 2.5 minutes left. This game was absolutely a wrestling match. It was brutal to watch. And I'm going to tell you, I'm watching this game and I'm like, I just don't know what the Knicks are doing. It's just Jalen Brunson dribbling around and trying to find a crack against Ausar Thompson. And I'm like, this is no way to play basketball. I'm saying this is I don't know who's going to win this game, but this is no way to play basketball. And then Jalen Brunson comes up with some stuff at the end of this game. MacMahon, the play that he makes to win the game. I'm speechless because I don't even know what to say. He sticks his foot in the ground like he's Gale Sayers, Walter Payton, Herschel Walker. You're from Texas. Who else should I be talking about?
He's an Eagles fan, so we'll say Saquon Barkley.
All right, Saquon Barkley.
And then
one more time, Lee.
Ausar Thompson. Remember, you know that famous clip of you, Wendy, where you're flying by on the TV screen. I think wrong with Ramona and somebody else. That was Ausar Thompson just flying out of the screen when Brunson planted with that left foot, crosses back over, and there's a replay that it's a fairly wide angle there, but Ausar Thompson was completely out of the screen. That's how much space.
And he'd been playing so well, defending so well.
Here's an ESPN research number for you. Brunson in the fourth quarter, when defended by Ausar Thompson, was 1 of 6.
Oh my God.
And that one unbelievable crossover created the space. Thompson still got somewhat of a contest on it, but knocked down the not just game winning.
I don't even think crossover is. We got to come up with another description of that.
It was an epic move.
Oh my God!
And I was with you. I was watching that. First of all, JB Bickerstaff subbed Thompson out for a little bit there, with 4-ish minutes left, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know about that." Schroeder can't stop Brunson, but Brunson couldn't do anything with Thompson. Then he brought him back down the stretch. But as they're coming out there, I'm like, dude, you got to Cat's fouled out. Do you got to find do you got to run something for somebody else? Can you just give Brunson the ball here? Thompson's been swallowing him up all game. And Brunson afterwards just was raving with respect for Ausar Thompson. But Brunson, what a series for him. What a performance. Not the most efficient in the world, but to have a 40-pointer with a walk-off. Come on now.
He had 40 points on 33 shots. It was tough to watch. There were some possessions where you're just you've got Karl Towns on the team. You've got OG Anunoby. Mikal Bridges had really 2 good offensive games down the stretch. He missed a clutch shot at the end of game 5 that, was painful. But Mikal Bridges did come to play. But it was just Brunson straight ISOing. And he made a couple of amazing maneuvers to get baskets. The Pistons quit scoring. And there was just some absolute hand-to-hand combat on some plays at the rim. And while Cade Cunningham had a great series, Cade, in the one game in New York, or was it it was game 4 where, he had 2 good looks in the last minute, couldn't get it done. And in this game, he was great. I'm not taking anything away from him, but, he wasn't able to get the Pistons some baskets when they needed some sort of offense, some sort of points. He wasn't able to get. Actually, Jalen Duren was their leading scorer in the fourth quarter of this game, which I would not have expected. But let me just say as a quick aside, it's been an incredible few days for the Thompson twins.
Yes.
Asar Thompson, playing in his first ever elimination game, scores 22 points, plays great defense in the Garden. Then the next night, which is our last night here, Wednesday night, Amen Thompson in his first closeout game with 25 points, 5 steals and 3 blocks in the demolition.
Picking Steph Curry at half court. Come on.
And then Asar was great defensively in this game.
And had 17 points.
Right. Yeah. He didn't score. He couldn't make a shot and didn't score, but in games 5 and 6, God, what talents these two guys are. I mean, they're going to see each other on the court someday in a high leverage game. I'm going to tell you, I maybe it's with Houston and Detroit, maybe it's somewhere else, but these two dudes are going to go against each other. Or my God, maybe they end up on the same team. Holy Moses. Oh my God. All right. So I just want to say last possession for New York, they ISO Jalen Brunson, which was not a surprise. Mikal Bridges runs past like he's going to set a screen. He just runs past. Brunson comes left. And I assume Asar, I haven't seen his comments after the game because I immediately started watching the Clippers game. I assume he's just favoring that Jalen's going to go left. Jalen has the heavy left hand. He's going left. He doesn't want to get beat because if Brunson gets the corner turned, he gets you on his hip, there's all kinds of problems. And he's just favoring that left hand, and Brunson just sticks that left foot in the ground. I don't know if he could have done it on his right foot, MacMahon, because his right ankle, he sprained it like he keeps re-spraining it. But his left ankle was strong.
Well, you're also not going to get somebody to sit that heavy on his right hand.
Right. And the amount of space he creates is crazy. Steps into a 3. Oof. Holds up his signature, 3 with the thumb and the 2 fingers. Mm-hmm. And then did you see him in the post game? He had like a sweatshirt, like a branded sweatshirt, and he made sure he put the hood up on it because right on the top of the hood was the 3 fingers. I mean, I don't know who did the branding. I mean,
I think it was actually on the hat.
Oh, was it on the hat? I thought it was on a sweatshirt. Well, I don't. I'm just gonna say whoever did that, kudos. I don't like branded stuff. I would never buy branded stuff, but I was like, wow, that's cool. If I was a Jalen Brunson fan, I would want that tomorrow so bad, that 3. I do not walk away from this thinking the Knicks are going to be pressing the Celtics. But give Jalen Brunson his moment, Pelton. Incredible finish to this series, incredible fourth quarters. Great stuff.
So MacMahon mentioned 40 points in the walk-off shot, and ESPN research with the list of this all time in NBA history. 2 guys did it in 2019 alone. Damian Lillard in Portland against Oklahoma City. I was in the building for that one.
Slightly memorable.
Yeah. Slightly. And then Kawhi Leonard against Toronto against Philadelphia, I should say, with Toronto in round.
Slightly memorable.
And then the third one before this was Michael Jordan in 1998 in Salt Lake City in the NBA Finals.
Brian Asar kind of went sliding like Byron Russell.
Jalen did not give him,
but there was no contact.
There won't be a Wi-Fi password in Little Caesars Arena in 25 or 30 years. Like it is in the Delta Center. Might still be. admittedly didn't make it to the Delta Center this year in Utah.
Wow.
You'll be back there at some point. But yeah, I mean, those are three of the most iconic shots in NBA history. The Jordan game winner in his last game in a Chicago uniform, up there with the greatest shots, period, in NBA history. So for Brunson to join that group, pretty incredible. And it's a combination of a testament to how close this series was, which ESPN research had a great note about this too. It was the second series in NBA history to feature 4 straight games decided by 3 or fewer points. The only other time it had happened before, the 1981 Eastern Conference Finals, Philadelphia and Boston. So a lot of clutch time and a lot of Jalen Brunson in clutch time for the Knicks. He scored 27 points in the NBA Advanced Stats clutch definition during the first round. Karl Anthony Towns was second at 16. Nobody else had more than 15. So he nearly doubled.
Well, nobody else had the ball. Nobody else had the ball.
No, but so, I feel like there's an inside track on the Cojones Factor Player of the Month. I don't want to steal.
Oh my gosh,
MacMahon's.
Wait! It's the 1st of May. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh my gosh, what an opening salvo in the May Cojones Factor. Are we doing Cojones tonight? Are you ready?
I've got it ready to roll. Yeah, we can get to it here in a little bit. Listen,
right.
I like awesome series by Brunson in particular. The Knicks survive. We can't just skip over the Pistons, though.
Yeah.
Dude, this team won 14 games last year. And I'm sure Pistons fans walked out of there pissed off. But they also had to be fired up because, listen, Cade, like there's some efficiency things, turnovers. He's a superstar, right? And he's got pieces around him. Asar Thompson's a guy you can be excited about. He's going to be a really good player for a long time, whether he ever gets a jump shot or not. Dude, Jalen Duren is a player. He is a big-time big man, and he's not like he's cut out of freaking granite. He's a hell of an athlete, but he's got feel. Like this guy, he's not just your pick and roll lob threat. Like you can throw it to him in the short roll. He's a great passer for that type of guy. He's tough. He's athletic as hell. Obviously Jaden Ivey didn't get to play in this series, missed most of the season with that injury. Before he went down this year, he gave you reason to think, okay, hey, you know what? That's a dude. Like the Pistons.
Yeah, he had really regained momentum before his injury.
The Pistons have some really nice young pieces. Some of the vets they brought in, we'll see, like Malik Beasley wants to be back. Tim Hardaway also free agent. I would think he would want to be back. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, they've got cap flexibility too. We'll see what they do with it.
It was a bummer of a way to end it for Beasley.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. That was another reason why it was comparable to the Milwaukee game, because Gary Trent, the ball goes, in that case, they were protecting the lead. Gary Trent just had to hold on to the ball. In this case, Malik Beasley is going to have a shot. He was second in the league in 3-pointers this season. He was going to have a clean shot to send the game to overtime. And then he fumbles it away. And
he had 6 of them. He had 6 of them.
I know he
all
had not
the first half, the last one at the halftime buzzer.
He had not been having a good, for a guy who was elite shooting the 3. He had a good game 1. And then he was 6 of 13 tonight. But he was 2 of 7 in game 5, 3 of 9 in game 4, 2 of 10, 1 of 8. He didn't really leave his mark on the series, but this was his moment. And to be honest with you, I think he would have hit it. I think if he gets it off, he hits it.
That's the guy you want shooting the ball for the Pistons.
Yeah.
But Brunson, even with Thompson on him, that's the guy the Knicks want to have with the ball in his hands.
And I think we got to give credit to JB Bickerstaff, whoever drew up that play in the huddle. Like you were going to get a wide open shot for the guy you wanted, and a bummer that they didn't get to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, and Bickerstaff, he's getting, there's some scrutiny on the decision to sub Asar out for whatever it was. It's like 2 minutes late in the fourth quarter there. I get it. I think it was a questionable move, but dude,
Brunson went down in the inside and had that basket under the basket where Thompson was out of the game then.
Yeah, he got 2 or 3 buckets there against Dennis Schroeder. But again, JB Bickerstaff had a hell of a first year in Detroit, taking them from 14 wins to 43 in the regular season. a couple more, and they gave the Knicks a hell of a fight in this series.
I'm just looking at how many minutes Thompson played in the second half, because I mean, I assume he did that because he thought he was tired.
Yeah, he'd come back relatively early in the fourth quarter, and I think it was probably, a matter of kind of the energy he expended because he was everywhere on that court
Yeah.
before he subbed out. It's sort of the alternative path we can't see is would he have worn down trying to defend Jalen Brunson in the last 2 minutes had he, gone that entire stretch? Tough to say.
Yeah, he played 14 minutes in the second half.
I would say this. I don't care if Asar Thompson needs to needs to play with an oxygen mask on. I'd rather have him guard Jalen Brunson than Dennis Schroeder, who Jackson makes a rare contribution here. And
Oh my gosh, no, unnecessary.
I'm praising him.
Oh,
Brunson scored 15 points on 6 of 7 shooting with Dennis Schroeder as his primary defender. Schroeder was a very nice pickup for the Pistons. Nice midseason pickup for the Pistons. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him this summer. And he is a guy who's hit a lot of big shots in his career, not just in the NBA, but obviously for the German national team.
Reigning World Cup MVP.
There you
Dennis
go.
Schroeder.
I would have, and you know what? Asar Thompson was guarding Brunson on when the series came down to it, and Brunson juked him out of the screens.
Holy Moses!
I'm not gonna question JB too much, I guess.
All right. Well, there's a bunch of stuff. They're not. The Celtics aren't playing the Knicks until Monday. That's the series I'm going to be doing. So
You excited?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, New York, Boston. Why not? Why not?
You should have asked if he's excited because Bontemps will be covering the series.
Yeah, I bet you Bontemps will weasel his way into the Garden a time or two.
He shows up at the Garden, I'm going to kick his ass. By the way, since we brought him up, congratulations to the Bontemps family. A bundle of joy. A baby boy was born on Wednesday night. Literally, he said right as the Lakers were being eliminated.
Best moment of his life, times 2.
Bontemps Jr. Right? Well, I shouldn't say Bontemps Jr. He's not. I'm not authorized to give the name, but it's not Tim. Anyway, Kelly K-Bon is doing well. So, yeah, he's probably going to be looking for a reason to come to the arena soon. But little Bontemps, the only world he knows is the Lakers as losers and the Knicks as winners. And he watched his
having no other way.
he watched his first game with his dad on Thursday night, and he was watching MSG in New York City, and he got to hear Mike Breen with the bang bang, the double bang.
Ooh, little bang bang, baby.
It's all he knows is Jalen Brunson greatness. So anyway, yeah, I'll be doing that series, and we'll see. I think the Knicks, who they don't exactly leave me confident that they're going to reverse the trend of them against top teams this year. But Jalen Brunson is, I think if you're the Knicks, you just get the game to the fourth quarter and try to let Jalen do something for you.
Seriously.
I mean, that's your goal.
Of course, the Celtics have a few dudes they can throw at him.
Yeah, so we'll see. Obviously Drew Holiday would be one of them. And Holiday missed 3 games in the first round with a hamstring. So, it was an option for them to start the series on Saturday. They could have started the series on Saturday, but for sequencing for later in the playoffs, they are starting at Monday. So
I thought they asked you about that, and you said you wanted the weekend and all.
Well, I wanted to play golf on Sunday morning, and so we're gonna get 18 in before we head out to the East Coast. So I'll just then I'll seal the clubs for 6 weeks because that'll be that. But anyway, okay, so let's get out to the West Coast. Clippers were all right. We'll do that later. Okay, it's out to the West Coast. Clipper. This thing had 7 games written all over it.
Had to be.
I will say that the game was kind of, comparable to the Knicks game because at the end of the Knicks game, the Knicks had like a 15-point lead and they let Detroit overtake them. The Clippers were leading through most of the second half of this game. And then all of a sudden, midway through the fourth quarter, James Harden, who had played a very good game, just started dribbling the heck out of the ball and just handing it away. I mean, he had a bad game 5 and didn't talk to the media and came back and had a great start and was like, playing, was going to be the hero. And I don't know what was happening, but he just sort of went to mush late in the game. And the Nuggets kept getting the ball and getting free breakouts. And they kept missing open layups and dunks.
He was probably tired. He played 47 minutes.
Well, that's true. I'll give him that. Maybe that was it. But the Clippers held them off. Tremendous performance by Ivica Zubac down the stretch defensively. Yeah. He got a couple of stops on Jokic. Pelton, I don't think there's a head-to-head defender. I don't think there's. I think he's the best that you could have against Jokic in the league.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, for large stretches of the series, the Clippers have sort of opted to go with other players on Jokic, including James Harden at times in Game 5 to, keep Zubac in that help role that he was so good in the regular season.
And they had success in Game 5 by switching and then doubling, but when it mattered in Game 6, when their season was on the line, they left Zubac out there to save him, and he was able to get some stops on Jokic.
Well, and when Joker has 25 points and 8 assists, that's a bad game by his standards, which is how good he is. But Zubac is the primary defender, quoting a Ramona tweet here. 5 of 14, including 1 of 8 in the second half, and a couple of huge stops after it got tight late there.
Which means 6 of 8 against everybody else.
Also, Nick, that's a great point. So also Nick Batum, who, at one point, like 18 months ago, announced that last year was his last year. He was like, I'm playing my last NBA season. I'm playing the Olympics and I'm riding off into the sunset.
The Paris Olympics.
I believe it was his wife that said that. I don't know that Nick ever said it. Did he?
That's funny. I mean, maybe she said it first, but I'm pretty sure I read that he said that was it. I don't know. I just know that he got traded last year, and then the Clippers were like, listen, come to LA. And he was tremendous in this game. Made plays
I'll say
left
this.
and right.
If it was a wife's decision, Philly to LA is like, okay, all right, maybe one more year. I could see that, but no. And one of the big, I'd say Tyler's biggest adjustment in this game was he pulled Chris Dunn at halftime. I don't know. Did Chris Dunn play at all in the second half?
Oh, look.
But he started Batum in the second half instead of Chris Dunn. And if you look at Batum's stats, it's like they don't jump off the page. 6 points. But he had 6 assists, he had 5 rebounds, he had a couple steals. He's just that,
He definitely had a couple of blocks.
Yeah, he had
Chris Dunn did not play in the second half.
Had 3 blocks, including one big one there down the stretch. And, he just when he's on a good team, he's a connector. He's kind of that, I don't know how to say glue guy in French, but however you say that.
You don't know how to say glue guy in French? How dare you?
Yeah. I don't even know how to say beer in French now I think about it. But he just makes a ton of winning plays. And it's funny because the guy was a terrible contract for Charlotte a while ago, and he's been a really good player, ever since then. Just, he's just like, I don't even know what his salary is this year. Is he a minimum guy?
I think
I think it was the biannual exception.
Okay. The biannual. Okay.
Well, he's a hell of a bargain on that. But whether it's for France or the Clippers over the years, he just has a way of doing all the little things that help win games. And that was definitely the case tonight. Oh, and beer. I should have known that. Thanks, Jackson.
Anyway, I think just you say beer in Paris, you'll get what you need. So the Clippers are the Nuggets role players once again played well. Westbrook had an effective game. He did have his Westbrook moments where he botched layups and stuff, but he had a double-double. Yeah. Played, increased the tempo. Christian Brown with another good game. Aaron Gordon had a good game. Really, the only thing here is that, Jamal Murray was not red hot, and Jokic did not have a Hall of Fame performance. He had a good but not great game.
Yeah, and Murray wasn't bad. Murray had 21 and 8.
Right, but he didn't have 40.
Yeah, 21 on 9 and 19 you'll take. You know who did get red hot?
Norman Powell.
Norman Powell got really hot.
Friend of the pod, and he had a huge third quarter, and then he made an absolutely vital 3-pointer late in the fourth quarter as well.
When they were on fumes. Yeah. I mean, the guy for Denver who did not play well is the role player was Michael Porter Jr., who's obviously dealing with this shoulder injury. And, there was an update during this game about how difficult it is for, I think it was Lauren Jabara on the sidelines for TNT, who mentioned it's hard for him to even lift his shoulder to 90 degrees, let alone, to shoot a shot. 5 points, 2 of 5 shooting in 24 minutes. And the Nuggets were outscored by 24 with him on the court. Now that's partially because he is typically out there, when Jokic is resting or when Murray is resting, not when both of those guys are on the court.
Having said that, Pelton, he was plus 34 in game 5. So that's obviously a swing. Again, with plus minus, it's never solely on the player, but
it's not perfect, but he had a rough go at it tonight. And, the Clippers got a lot of dudes contributing, and dude, Kawhi had another Hall of Fame caliber performance.
So Kawhi came into this game in this series, averaging 25 points on 56% shooting. And all he did in this one was score 26, I think.
27 on 11 of 22. So
with 10 rebounds, 10 rebounds, 10 rebounds and 5 assists. He's bringing it every night again. 40 minutes. He was plus 14. He was the best player in the game, plus minus wise. So the Nuggets, on one hand, I feel like have definitely played better the last couple of games. Like, I would feel pretty good if I was a Denver fan going into game 7. On the other hand, you also feel like the Clippers have given away or let 2 games in this series they could have won go. Pelton, what were you saying about this is Denver's 7th game 7 in the last 6 years or something like that?
6th since 2019 per ESPN research. So the most of any team in that span. They played 2 of them in that 2019 run, one at home against San Antonio, lost at home against Portland, then played 2 of them, of course, in the bubble, both of those 3-1 comebacks that they completed, and then last year against Minnesota. So they've lost twice at home in game 7s during the Jokic era, which is, interesting given the home court advantage did we always see in game 7 and then Denver on
You don't always see it anymore. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would just say anecdotally, game 7 home court it's been way closer to even over the last decade than it was for the previous 60 years.
I think the Nuggets, they just need to remind the opponents a little bit more often of the altitude there. They really kind of try to keep that a secret and see if we'll sneak up on
it. Please put down your standard Denver Nuggets court with the axe and the pick or whatever it is. Like don't stop messing around with that altitude stuff. If you're going to have a classic game, put your classic court down there.
I'm going to be nice to the Nuggets, though. One, I got to cover, whoever wins this one, I'll be covering them in the next round against OKC. So I'm going to be nice to both of them. 2, I'm still trying to get back on the good side of Rocky the mascot. Mountain lion. He's only got 3 fingers, but he showed me the one in the middle. A couple of years back, so I'm still trying to get back in his good graces. All I did was try to encourage him after he had a poor shooting session backwards from half court on that big old ladder in his pregame. And I said, hey, man, you got to do better than that. And the guy flipped me off. And then lo and behold, I motivated him, though, because that night, first time out, whatever time out he came out at, man, he banked in the first look. So I hope we're
well. I think
he ain't tall enough to ref a game, though. I'll tell you that right now.
I don't want to pull the curtain back too far, but I think we have a new Rocky.
Oh, good. Okay,
the original Rocky was legendary in NBA mascot circles, but I think there is a new, a new expression of Rocky. So that Rocky, being
3 fingers or what?
It's still three fingers. But that other Rocky was a legend, and maybe he was cantankerous near the end of his career.
I can confirm the cantankerousness.
Anyway, that'll be a good one. Yeah, considering they lost Game 7 at home last year, I would assume that the Nuggets are trying to reverse that, and the team that was happiest,
they're trying to win Game 7 as well.
The team that is happiest tonight is the Thunder. They just put their feet up a little higher. Like, we'll see you next week. All right, I think contractually we're supposed to talk about the Lakers, although it was the Timberwolves who won the series. As Ant made it very, very clear after the game. I gotta say, it'll never be remembered like this, but Rudy Gobert, talk your French talk, because how many times in the last 11 months has Rudy Gobert had to see Luka hit that three over him in game 5? I think it was game 5.
That three was game 2. Game 5, there wasn't no need for a game winner because he just put him up from the get-go.
That's right. And Luka, you can't guard me.
Yeah, talking all that Slovenian. I asked, messaged Rudy last night and said, "Hey, did you tell him you can't effing guard me, MFer?" And he said, "No need to talk." Oh, yeah. But you know what, though? The funny thing is, there's always been so much talk about Rudy gets played off the floor in the playoffs. Rudy gets played, and it's factually inaccurate. Now, there's been playoff series where it didn't go well for him, but people always want to point to like that Clippers playoff series. He didn't get played off the floor. The Jazz got beat 4 straight games. The defense fell apart because he couldn't plug all the holes. The defense was bad with him out there and just historically atrocious without him. But the problem with Rudy when teams went small was his defensive dominance was mitigated if you can pull him away from the rim, obviously, and he wasn't able to punish it on the offensive end. Last night, he punished the hell out of it by grabbing every rebound. He had 8 offensive rebounds and 8 dunks. First dude to do that in a playoff game, I believe our folks said, since Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah, he had the most dunks in a game since Shaq in a playoff game, since Shaq in 2002.
Yeah, and it wasn't even punishing switches. It was just he was absolutely feasting on the glass. 27 points, 24 rebounds, and obviously a major factor defensively. And the funny thing is, Pelton, agree or disagree with this, I think up until that point, it had probably been his worst playoff series.
Offensively, certainly. Yeah. I mean, I think defensively, I think he had done very well defensively.
They shot 29% against him as the primary defender. So that was, of course, the guys shooting against him are all 6 to 8 inches shorter than him. So that was a factor.
But they always are. I mean, it's the same guy who made that shot we were just talking about.
That's
true. And in this year's series, Minnesota was completely comfortable switching Gobert on him, and he's not going to win every
right, but he never had to guard
matchups.
a center basically at all. I mean, he was,
No.
Don't have any.
But, they were completely comfortable switching him and leaving him in an island against Luka Doncic and LeBron James. And that, helped the Timberwolves keep the Lakers role players in check throughout this series. But yeah, offensively, it had not been his best series. And we had seen Naz Reid, finish at times because of that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the way to attack a mismatch with Rudy Gobert against a 5-out team that's not playing anyone taller than 6'7" or 6'8", or, whatever I guess LeBron is 6'8", so 6'8", is not to throw him the ball in the post and let him go one-on-one. It's the offensive glasses you're talking about, and then get the ball moving. The other part of this game was the way that Anthony Edwards in the first half attacked the Lakers double teams and got the Lakers in rotation and set up wide open threes that they kept missing, but also some opportunities.
Well, yeah, I mean, all in all, it was a C performance from the Timberwolves.
One guy was A+, but you know what though? The ball was moving.
Julius Randle was a pretty high grade too.
Oh yeah, Julius Randle was yeah. Well, look, they missed 40.
Julius Randle had an A series. He was great.
For sure. It was the best playoff showing of his career, and it came at a perfect time. And look, I mean, they missed 43 pointers. At one point, they missed 18 in a row. But when you got Rudy getting, 20% of them.
Yeah.
It makes your offense a little bit more feasible that way. Still, it was a game in the last minute.
Yeah, and Mike
And
Conley hit a three when they really needed it, and Ant set it up.
yeah, I'll say this about Ant. Like, he talks trash and he plays with swagger and he dunks on dudes and he hunts that, but he plays the right way. He plays at both ends of the court and he plays the right way.
He's learning. He plays with the right spirit. He has made major progress very recently in playing the right way offensively.
Right, but I understand, but he has a pure heart.
Yes.
About it, That's Eric Spoelstra would say that. We played with purity, so he used to say that. He hasn't said that recently about the Heat, but he at one time he said that he played with purity.
He didn't say that
they played like pure something.
No. Spo tried to put a good face on that the other night.
I told you boys the paragraph in the paint next year in that Heat culture is going to be an apology for that Game 4 abomination.
Man, we're not talking about the Heat right now, but we are talking about purity because Ant played, as Jared Allen would say, Ant played ethical basketball in that game. I think he was 5-19, but he was very happy to get the win.
3.
Over 11, my God. Yeah. He had 17 free throws in game 5 or game 4. And, he was attacking the rim and that was big. And he had 43 that night, but he let Rudy be the star. All right. Where Jackson is going to get a memo if we don't bring up the Lakers.
Oh, we got some stuff to talk about with the Lakers.
Here's the thing. There was a way that the Lakers could have gone on a run in this postseason. There's a style of play that they showed they can be very successful at, which is when at least 2 of their 3 stars are hitting their shots, and defensively they play with high energy where they can run around and cover a lot of ground. And just neither of those things happened. Luka was sick for game 3 and he hurt his back in game 5. I don't know how much it affected him because at times he looked fine. And on defense, he was more of a statue than normal.
The ball has healing powers.
Yeah. I would just say that obviously, and JJ Redick said it in the exit interview, is like, we were the inferior team, or I guess that's not exactly what he said.
They got beaten 5.
Well, I know.
Like, listen, the ESPN had a clean sweep until Bontemps got his pick in late.
Thank goodness the Bontemps did that.
But dude, like, they got smoked in 5. There's no way to like pick through this and say, well, if this, that. No, you got beaten 5. It was a gentleman's sweep.
Yeah. So what I would say about the Lakers is where they're at right now, MacMahon, see if you agree with me. It's comparable, not the same, but it's comparable to where the Mavericks were 2 years ago. Mavericks trade for Kyrie.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a roster debit because of what they traded for Kyrie. They tanked down the stretch, get fined. How much they get fined for that?
I think it was $750, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I knew it was a big number.
It was high 6 figures.
They get fined for tanking, but they end up with Derek Lively. They move up in the draft to get Lively, or do they move back? They moved up or back?
They moved back a couple spots, but that was the
right.
top 10 protected lottery pick. They kept it at 10, made a deal where OKC moved up 2 spots to get Case and Wallace, which they're still pretty damn happy with that. And they moved back to 12 and got Derek Lively the second.
Okay, so the key was they needed rim protection and a lob threat. And they drafted Derek Lively, who was classic case of that, and young, springy, high athleticism. They signed Derek Jones Jr. How much did they give him?
Minimum.
So he gets a minimum.
It was like an August something signing.
Right. Athlete wing.
Yeah.
Then midway through, as the season goes along, they get Daniel Gafford. They tried to trade for Kyle Kuzma, but they end up with Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. Yep. So they get basically, there was, other things going on, but by the end of the day,
you hit the main things. They surrounded Luka and Kyrie. There was a little bit of like, my turn, your turn, don't want to step on toes. That really showed up in crunch time, but the scoring was not the problem. They stunk defensively, and they surrounded those guys with long, big time athletes.
Right. And none of those guys are stars. Okay. So the Lakers don't have their pick this year. It goes to the Atlanta Hawks. So they're not going to be able to get something in the draft. But they have the first round pick from 2031 or 32, which they traded for Mark Williams and then pulled back. They have 4 different swaps. I would be surprised if they traded all of them, but they have 4 swaps they can trade. One of which, again, they had sent for Mark Williams and pulled it back. So they're holding 4. I don't know what Dalton Connect's value is. He had value because they traded him for Mark Williams, but okay, Dalton Connect. They have a fair amount of expiring contracts, from, Rui Hachimura, who they probably don't want to trade, but, they have Maxi
The right
Kleber,
trade, you'd have to consider that.
who I will just say, playing Maxi Kleber, I'm giving the broadcast the benefit of the doubt that they're correct, but the TNT broadcast said that Kleber hadn't even practiced with the Lakers.
Well, when do they practice?
It's a little bit disingenuous. It sounds, he obviously practiced. He just didn't have they didn't have a full contact practice where he could practice.
Honestly, though, I heard you ripping JJ for that, and I do think JJ had he was a rookie head coach who got outcoached in the series by a damn good coach in Chris Finch. I understood what he was trying to do with Maxi. It's a really tough situation to put the guy in, but Maxi has had big time playoff moments, and he's had big time playoff moments.
I feel like McMenamin's back here with this. MacMahon, he didn't sub. He didn't sub in one game, and then the next game, he played a guy who had never played before.
I just said I understood what he was trying to do with Maxi. The not subbing thing was ridiculous. The way he handled.
No, but he's playing Maxi with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Highly questionable. And again, I thought he had a rookie series. He's got to be better than that. But Austin Reeves stunk. Luka's got to be a lot better.
I always remember this story that Brad Stevens told. I've probably told it on the podcast before, but Brad Stevens is like the classic case of the guy who came in from college, first time NBA coach. He obviously had more experience than JJ, but
yeah.
And people said right away, he was great. People loved what he did right away. And he tells a story about how in his first year as coach of the Celtics, end of a close game, he calls timeout, draws up one of his brilliant plays in the huddle for a baseline out of bounds play, some beautiful thing that he had developed for years and probably drilled and was going to be great. And the ball goes out for the last shot and the inbounds is on the side. And he botched where the inbounds was, and they were completely ill prepared. The play was botched and they lost. The thing was, as he said, the Celtics were tanking. Well, they weren't tanking, but they were tanking, but he probably didn't say those words. But his first year, the Celtics were tanking. So when he made his mistakes,
a lot of pressure on him.
Right. When he made his mistakes in a situation where there wasn't high leverage.
Right.
This was not the case for JJ Redick. JJ Redick is a first-time coach, first-time NBA coach. He had brilliant moments. He had tough moments. My thing about him in this particular game is he was seething. And he was seething before the game started. I don't care about the question. You can say the question was a gotcha question or whatever.
Whatever.
I don't care what the question is. You could tell the demeanor that he had going into the game. Reggie Miller with a pretty remarkable anecdote during the game when he said that he had to try to calm JJ down before the game in their pregame meeting because he was still so focused on games 3 and 4. And look, I don't know what he said to him in the locker room, but I know that the Lakers didn't come out looking like they were ready to play. So whatever, JJ is going to have a long career. I do think that he didn't have have the best series, but
look, there's a lot of blame to pass around to the Lakers, and we've given the appropriate credit to the Wolves. Simple fact is, this Lakers roster is not good enough. They kind of suckered some of us with 2 months of really good defense that was smoke mirrors.
Well, they could have played that way. There was a window for them to play that way, but they didn't.
Pelton.
I think part of it was the challenge of when they only had 5 guys they trusted. which clearly they did. JJ Redick could not possibly have told us any more clearly that there were only 5 guys that they trusted in this matchup. Like asking them to play with the level of energy and freneticism that they used defensively during that run the last 2 months of the season just wasn't realistic. And yeah, I mean, I think to what MacMahon was starting to say there, like, look, when they made this trade, it was not about the 2025 playoffs. It was about getting Luka Doncic there, hopefully for the next 10 years.
Exactly.
And eventually retooling the roster around him. That's going to take some time.
And I'm saying Dallas built around him and had a championship contender. I wonder how many possessions of zone has Maxi Kleber played in his career. That's what I want to know.
Oh, because I mean, he played for Rick Carlisle. Carlisle would mix in a lot of zone. Jay Kidd and Sweeney mix in zone.
Like, all right, fine. That's like okay. I'll take it back.
Maxi's been around the block. Now, he probably couldn't run around the block without losing his win since he'd had a broken foot and surgery. But you got, and they know this. What they do immediately? They target a rim running, rim protecting big man. You've got to get that guy. And look, Luka's going to get flame broiled because of the conditioning, which I've huffed and puffed and written about that his entire career. It's completely appropriate criticism. It's completely legitimate. And if he doesn't have, that kind of focus and discipline this summer, he never will. With the way he got slapped in the face with the trade.
But you've said this before.
Okay. So that's one thing. The defensive effort, look, the illness, the back, the condition, there was a lot. If Luka's in shape and at his best, you still have to protect him defensively. You've got the number one thing you need for him to maximize.
And you have to protect Austin Reeves, too. Yes. You have to protect them both.
To maximize his brilliance on offense is give him that guy to run pick and roll and to be able to throw those lobs to and just have that threat. And then the guy to have his back defensively. And those guys don't grow on trees. And by the way, Mark Williams can smiley face all he wants. It ain't like he's helping Charlotte win any games or he's even available that often.
You're making a reference to the fact that he put on, I think was IG, just a smiley face after the Lakers loss.
Maybe IG too. Pelton, put your Rob Pelinka leather jacket on and push up those sleeves and look real cool for us. And if you are in his seat, who are you targeting this summer? Who are you trying to get?
Yeah, I was just going through the cap sheet trying to do it. I mean, if you're looking lower cost, maybe Robert Williams from Portland. They have an overloaded center. They like Robert Williams in the locker rooms. They haven't been in a hurry to move him, but that would be somebody who would fit into their salary structure, I think, pretty easily for one of those expiring contracts that we talked about, and maybe a minimum guy, that sort of thing. That would be a potential option. At the other end, Nick Claxton, is on a rebuilding team and fits a lot of what you want ideally in that sort of 5-man next to Luka. The problem is the salary is still so big because he's got a descending contract. He's at $25.3 million next year. That's much more difficult for them to fit in. They've got to trade 3 guys probably.
What do you think of a Clint Capella?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think a Clint Capella type might be more useful than Clint Capella at this stage of his career because the athleticism that made him so good in that role with James Harden just isn't there anymore. He's still awesome on the offensive glass and a real presence there, but
Clint
not
Capella
the same
could be your
above the rim
backup
finisher.
Yeah, I would say that he would have to get in championship shape as well.
I would say this, as far as Mark Williams, yeah, I agree that he's not powering the Hornets to wins. That said, he played 21 games after he came back from the trade. He averaged 15 and 10 and shot 62%.
Well, they'd have been better off in this series with him, that's for sure.
Right. Well,
Let me throw one at you. This is pure hypothetical. This is just me kind of being amateur GM, trying to figure out things that might make sense. The Mavericks kind of quietly sniffed around about the value of Daniel Gafford before this last deadline. It certainly would make sense for them to do that again this summer. Derek Lively is a year away from getting an extension. Daniel Gafford's entering the final year of his contract. Gafford reasonably and rightfully is going to want to get paid starting center money. You can't have AD on a max, Lively on a big contract, and pay Gafford starting center money. Luka's obviously got chemistry with Gafford. I don't know if Nico wants to go back to Ascension Coffee and have another chit chat with Rob Pelinka so soon, or do something that would benefit.
I think Ascension
Luka.
Coffee has to rebrand. I wonder if their business has suffered.
No, because it's like a tourist destination. Dude, one of the
Okay.
biggest tourist
It's a tourist
destinations in
destination
Dallas is
where
where
Luka got
JFK got
traded.
shot. If people want to go see where JFK got shot, they definitely want to see where Luka got
Oh
traded.
my God.
Well, I'm just
Oh my
saying.
God. Yeah. All right.
Where were you?
But hey, I could put something together that would at least I think be intriguing for the Mavericks. Rui and all those picks that the pick that they've got to give up a swap or two. I could put something together that might make sense for both sides. What are you doing over there?
I'm just still laughing at you putting the JFK assassination in the same as Luka.
No, this final unplanned chapter that didn't make the early copies of The Wonder Boy, Luka Doncic and the Curse of Greatness, is still available everywhere. It's now this final chapter is available in the ebook and in the audiobooks. Anyways, the final scene is the protest when before AD's home debut right after the Luka trade and all that for the first home game. And at one point, they're like passing around the bullhorn for everybody to get their piece in. And this kid, I don't know how old he was, but he was prepubescent. And he goes, I've been a Mavericks fan my whole life. This is worse than JFK.
What a scene. What a scene.
It's
Oh my God. All right. So let me go over some of the.
Can I also just say one quick thing? This thing of like, and maybe this is being way too online, but people, this proves Nico was right. No, the hell it does not. Because even if you thought you couldn't win with Luka, you at least got to maximize value in return. The trade still made no sense for the Mavericks long term.
There's two different viewpoints of the Luka trade. The viewpoint in the world, and specifically the Dallas fan base, is you don't trade Luka Doncic.
That's also the majority viewpoint in the NBA from people.
I agree. However, there are people in the NBA who say, all right,
I get it.
I get maybe you think that you can't win with him and you don't want to pay him $300 million and you know more about his health than anybody else. Okay. But great players have been traded, but the trade is what drives them crazy.
The thing I've been told is I get wanting to get out of the Luka business, but you have to maximize the return, and they absolutely did not.
And as we go forward here, whether Luka wins 3 titles as a Laker and gets a statue, or never wins ever, and Nico wins a championship with the Mavericks and he takes the ultimate victory lap in the history of American sports. Either way, just understand that there are people in the NBA, or a lot of executives in the NBA, who are like, okay, I can somewhat see how they got there, but it was a trade.
I'm not sure it's a lot. It's my minority.
It's the fact that you can still argue there's a credible path for them to trade for Daniel Gafford that shows that Dallas did not get enough
with the leftovers.
Luka trade.
The leftovers from that deal. By the way, Luka, there is already a Luka statue at Crypto. Oh no, that was just him playing defense last night. All right, listen.
Well, that's why. All right, was
my rep as
all right. So let me just go over some of the Lakers things. So all right, so I said, they don't need to acquire another star. They need a certain set of role players with a set of skills, like the Mavericks did, and those things are attainable. It's going to require good execution and good player evaluation, but it's attainable. So I said they've got the draft pick on the swaps. They have a number of expiring contracts. Maxi Kleba, Gabe Vincent, Hachimura. And we'll see what happens with Dorian Finney-Smith. He has a $15 million player option, which he can opt out of and get a new contract. I'm not sure in this market where nobody has money and, the Lakers are not incentivized to help him in a sign and trade. That he opts out, but we'll see.
It could be a situation where he opts out, takes a little bit of a pay cut here to get a longer deal with the Lakers too.
Right. But a couple of things here. One, remember that last year, and by the way, LeBron, Bobby Marks put this all together. Since LeBron turned 40, he averaged 25, 8, and 8. Okay. So, yeah, he didn't look springy in game 5, but he's probably not retiring. And the Lakers,
break. Of course he's not.
Well, I just don't want to be used against me later. All right. He has a $52 million contract he can opt into or opt out of. And the key about that contract is that it's got a no trade clause in it. Which I assume the Lakers would give him in a new contract, but maybe I shouldn't assume, but that's key. If he thought there for a second that the Lakers wouldn't give it to him again, he would have to opt in because he doesn't want that nonsense. He made sort of a little bit too close to the bone joke when he was asked after the game about whether the Lakers need a center, which of course they do. And he's like, I'm not saying that. Like,
well, he was asked about playing center, which was he playing center in this series? I think
he
was playing center.
Finney Smith was playing a lot of center.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith started at center in Game 5. But anyway,
Game 4, quite famously or infamously.
But LeBron's like, oh, the last guy who, he's like, AD asked for a center, they traded him a week later, which is a funny line, but obviously LeBron has a no trade clause, so he can say whatever he wants. As I would like to remind you, last year after they drafted Bronny, he offered to take a pay cut to help the Lakers get to the mid-level exception, $14 million, give or take, and sign a player. Of course, he wanted to know who they were signing. He wasn't just going to hand the money back and then they wouldn't sign anybody, or they signed a guy he didn't like. So I wonder if that can be rebroached, because with, assuming Dorian Finney-Smith doesn't get a huge raise, the Lakers are right at the luxury tax if LeBron opts into the contract, and they would have their taxpayer mid-level about 5.7 million. If LeBron was willing to take an appreciable pay cut, and I don't want to count his money for him. I'm not, but he did offer it last year. So the concept is not foreign. They could potentially get the full mid-level exception. And then they would have that plus these expiring contracts, plus the draft picks. What I'm saying is, I think the Lakers have the ability to do what they need to do. It's just a matter of executing it.
Well, and they're the freaking Lakers, and they're in Los Angeles. And like we're talking about these, got to get a rim running big. Those guys are going to be lining up to play with Luka for the Lakers. Like, who actually used to, like, once was pretty excited about the potential of playing with Luka? It's pretty funny.
Christian Wood.
I'm not sure Christian Wood knew. Rudy Gobert. When it was pretty obvious that he wanted to spend his whole career in Utah, but when it was pretty obvious that might not be the way that thing was going that last year, Dallas was atop his kind of silent list of preferred destinations. And there was a time where Mark Cuban and Nico Harrison were both very interested in that idea. The Mavericks knocked the Jazz out of the playoffs that year. Jason Kidd was not so excited about the idea of playing or of having Rudy Gobert. They couldn't have outbid the Timberwolves anyways. But then the Mavericks came around on this. Yeah, we'll get half the production on 20% of the salary. And they gave JaVale McGee 20% of the salary. They didn't get production.
Yeah, well, Rudy signed an extension before the season. That won't be happening.
He's got a player option, though. Naz Reid.
Well, that's true.
Not that type of center, but that's interesting.
All right. So
really not a center, I would argue, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, he would help a lot of teams. I don't think $14 million is going to get it done, though.
I would agree with that.
So, and then before we move on, I just want to point out the Luka. This is all from Bobby Marks, so I want to give him credit. The Luka situation starting August 2nd. Okay, so he's going to get to watch what the Lakers do in the offseason. He has options to extend his contract. He has 1 year left on his deal. Is that right, MacMahon?
1 plus a player option. Yes. By the way, that's August 2nd. Just to people might be wondering, why is it that late? This is because it's the date that contract was signed, and it was signed that late because the Mavericks respected his wishes to wait until after the Olympics with the Slovenian national team,
where he led a brilliant run and almost won a bronze medal. One of the great runs of the modern era. And then the next year he got ejected from the game that was qualifying them for the Olympics. And
You were just saying something nice. My gosh.
all right. Okay, so here are his options. He has 1 year plus player option, but let's be honest, he's got 1 year.
Sure.
He can sign a 4-year, $230 million max contract, which added to the year that he's got would make him under contract for 5 years. What Bobby thinks he will do, and is more likely, assuming he extends, is a 3-year, $165 million extension. And the reason that you would do that is because at the end of that 3 years, he then would have 10 years of service and can get a higher maximum, a 35% of the cap.
Or he could do both and have the 4-year with the player option on that last year.
Right. But just to show you the difference in the numbers, he could have, if Dallas had kept him, he could have signed a $345 million extension this summer.
Yep.
Now it's $230 million. Now
5 versus 4 years, but still a huge jump.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not apples to apples because it is, and he can make up some of that later, but so we'll see. I mean, we'll talk about all that a lot, but that's definitely on the board for the Lakers. Okay, I do want to spend a moment here looking at this Warriors-Rockets game that's coming up on Friday night. I'm just going to say that the first step towards blowing a 3-1 lead is laying down in game 5. That doesn't mean that they're going to blow a 3-1 lead, but that is what they did. I think
3-1 lead if you win game 5, that's for sure.
Well, but laying down it especially. Now, I said this today in one of my production meetings at ESPN, and one of the producers who's a Warriors fan pointed out a couple years ago when this happened, when they went to Memphis and laid down and then came back and took care of Memphis. I'm not saying
that trick.
Yeah, Draymond pointed that out last night when he said they didn't play whoop that trick, but they might as well have.
Okay, so fine. I just remember what I was thinking about watching that game was way back in 2015 when the Clippers blew their first 3-1 lead against the Rockets. They come into Houston and do a similar thing where they just totally don't take the game seriously, get blown out. And next thing you know, Pat Bev and was doing dancing and doing crazy stuff. And I'm just going to say that, yeah, you can focus on the decisions that went down in game 7 of that series, and you can attack Doc Rivers, which many people did, but they began falling apart in game 5. So I'm not saying that that's what's happening here. I'm just saying, it's like I say, collapses always include a missed free throw. You blow a 3-1 lead, starts out with not taking game 5 seriously. Having said that, the Rockets were excellent. Amen Thompson was excellent. And to me, everyone's focused on Steph's thumb because he was photographed. It was a team photograph, by the way. It wasn't like it was a paparazzi with a long lens. The team photographed, it's a sponsored element, I believe, where the players are getting onto the plane and they were going to go to game 5, and people zoomed in on his right thumb and they saw a huge swelling in the joint, and people were freaking out. I will just say that he's been playing with this for weeks, and he's still playing pretty well. Yeah. I'm kind of more worried about the Jimmy Butler glute, because they need Jimmy Butler. And
they were worried about Jimmy Butler's pain in the ass in Miami all season long. Oh wait, sorry, different. You're
getting the full treatment, Pelton.
It's after midnight. Sort.
So and after dark.
Yeah. And hey, if you're the Timberwolves, you're like, come on, Houston. Yeah, I mean, it's we'll they're not going to have home court either way, so they're like, all right, take them to 7.
Minnesota will have home court if Golden State wins.
Oh, that's right, they were the 6th seed. God, I forgot.
But yeah, I think the longer series is a bigger deal. I mean, that was one of the concerns about the Warriors coming into this series is that they had used a lot of gas in the fight to try to avoid the play-in, were unable to do so, had to play the first play-in game. And, I think that probably was a factor in Steve Kerr's thinking going into game 5 that he was ready to pull the plug and prep for game 6 if things got away for them. And, the good news is, like, Steph Curry is the only Golden State player who has played more than 150 minutes in this series in 5 games. He's the only one averaging, uh, so only one averaging more than 30 minutes per game right now. So, like, they have not carried the heavy load in this particular series, but if it goes to 7, all of a sudden that's going to be a dramatically different situation projecting ahead if they do win.
Yeah, and their 2 stars are banged up, and the Rockets know their 2 stars are banged up. And
Dylan Brooks made that. I mean, actions over words, but Dylan Brooks made it very clear he's aware
well,
of the
actions
injuries.
and words with Dylan Brooks.
Right.
Basically, like,
they usually match for him.
Yeah, like essentially he was accused of targeting Steph Curry's thumb. And he's like, yeah, if I've got a bad ankle, people are going to target that ankle.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to hit that thumb when I can hit it. I'm sure they'll he's giving Jimmy a little extra bump here and there, when he can. So, we'll see. Steph has, like you said, Steph's been playing with that for quite some time. The Jimmy thing, you hope it gets better as the series goes, and that the soreness and the stiffness kind of eases as the series goes. But I mean, he was a shell of himself last night or Wednesday night when people were listening to this.
Also, there's the Jalen Green factor. He could have 40, he could have 4.
Well, I would say that he's had one big game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's maybe due for 40.
Well, that's true. Van Vliet suddenly is caught fire.
Well, that's that. You mean that's not as surprising. But yeah, Van Vliet has been a difference maker. All right, we'll follow up with that one. Okay, it's late.
What?
But we have a new month.
Oh yeah. Don't you change me.
That means we had an old month. I see you're wearing your Amigos shirt there.
Anaheim Amigos. One and done. ABA team, baby. Became the Los Angeles Stars, then the Utah Stars. They stunk it up in Anaheim, though, to be honest with you. I looked them up. But no, we're not to the Adios Amigos part because we do have Cojones Factor of the Month for April. We'll be heavily weighted, obviously, to the first round of playoffs. And this will be the last one of the year because, come second round, it's all Cojones at this point. But I do want to give one regular season shout out, and that's going to go to Harrison Barnes because Spurs weren't going to make the playoffs, but boy, did it feel good for him to bump those Warriors down to the play-in. Not that team that he won a title with, won a 73 games with the next season, and they just booted him right out of town.
By the way, speaking of the Spurs, did you see the photo they released? I think it was on Wednesday.
Where Victor's grown to like 7'11" now. Are you kidding me? He's like a foot taller than David Robinson.
This photo is amazing. So it's their 4 rookies of the year. Oh, I don't know if they have another one, but
it was Duncan, David Robinson, Victor, and obviously Stephon Castle.
Yeah, and to celebrate Castle winning, which he won in a landslide. My vote for Zachary Richeche was.
Are you and Bontemps, that freaking French hipster vote? You spend all that damn time in Paris, and you are wee-weeing your way to a freaking runner-up.
It is crazy. It's first off, it's just a great picture. Number one, and number two, to see how much taller Victor is than Tim Duncan and Dave. Now, I'm sure Tim Duncan and Dave Robinson maybe aren't at their top height of their lives, but
they haven't shrunk 6 inches. He's towering over them. Don't tell me he's 7'3".
Well, he was 7'5" when he came in the league. I have no idea what he's at now, but he was 7'5" when he came in the league.
Now, what do they listen to? Anyways, Harrison Barnes hitting that game-winning buzzer beater, the 3 over the Warriors, going to get a shout out. So is the Lorenzo Charles impersonation by Aaron Gordon, obviously, to win that. What was it? Was that game 3? It's been such a long series. Game 4. In LA. But we're going to focus on the brass, the silver, and the gold, and the brass. Tonight didn't count towards this, but boy, oh boy, you can call it an exclamation point on just a Cojones Factor month, season. He won the knockoff version that the NBA gives out for the regular season. Talking about Jalen Brunson, of course. Entering tonight in that series, Pelton, you mentioned he led the league in clutch points in this first round. And entering tonight, 21 points, no turnovers in 15 clutch minutes, just time after time after time. He puts on that cape that Tibbs said he went to the locker room to get that one time. So yeah, Jalen Brunson, shout out. Tonight might have bumped him up a spot or two, but he's going to be the brass balls.
It's kind of like a baseball manager who he just wants to go to his closer.
Yeah.
Like he sometimes, even if it's like late in the season, like, and the closer's arm is kind of shot, he's like, this is who I trust. I trusted him all year.
There's 2 outs in the 7th. Oh, damn it. We get
Exactly.
We ain't going to be no middle relief tonight.
Yeah. The closer is up in the 7th inning and his arm is dragging as he comes out of the bullpen. Just come on, give me 6 outs.
Yeah. Brunson on that roommate show, he's got a Tommy John underwear deal. In this analogy, you might need Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess, after seeing all that, it's actually a great analogy. Go ahead.
All right. The silver medalist, and not a guy who scored a lot in clutch, in crunch time in this series, but I'm going to give it to the Ant-Man, the guy whose favorite movie is Matilda, an underrated classic, by the way.
Great Broadway production, Matilda.
I'm familiar with Broadway, but I have seen the movie.
They don't have Broadway in Dallas.
Not that I'm aware. No, we got a Monopoly set here. Anyways, Anthony Edwards, 12 points, just 3 of 5 shooting in 11 clutch minutes in that series, a plus 20. Here's the stuff.
That's a good one.
Here's the stuff. 5 assists, no turnovers in crunch time of this series. Nut cutting time. That's those last 3 minutes, 1 possession. 3 assists, no turnovers, including the biggest assist of the series when he drew the whole defense, kicks it out to Mike Conley for that dagger 3. Why is that so important? Why am I hyping that up so much? 160 clutch minutes this season. Ant was a minus 51, and he had 13 assists and 15 turnovers. The Wolves, maybe their biggest flaw all year was that Ant would revert. This is, Wendy, where I was pushing back on you about he always plays the right way. Their biggest flaw was he would revert to hero ball time and time.
Well, sometimes he would push him into the clutch because they would have a comfortable lead in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden it's a clutch game.
Right. And it would be Ant hero ball. And a lot of times he'd be taking like terrible shots. Even though game winner he hit in Houston, it's just like fading away 3 over 2 bodies. He made the right decision time after time after time again. It's a mature, distinguished version of Cojones by Mr. Edwards here.
By the way, his great line on that walk-off when he's walking in the streets of LA yesterday wasn't just that Matilda was his favorite movie. It was that the good guy's going to die tonight.
Well, that's how it came up, because he said, the good guy dies in this movie. Morris Chestnut going to die in this movie. He died in this movie. And the guy said, Morris Chestnut, is Boys in the Hood your favorite movie? We're in LA. He said, nah, man, Matilda. Which was hilarious. And then
Joe Mazzulla watches The Town before he goes to bed every night. Can you see Ant just settling into Matilda to calm himself down?
Yeah. I forgot what's the strength coach lady's name in that movie? Pelton, you probably know. Come on. Anyways, my wife always calls me her because remember when Cassidy was on here, she advised us to get one of those hyper ice, like back rub massage type thing.
Massage gun.
Well, I wear the hell out of that thing. It's like an every morning thing. My wife tells me I look like that really mean lady who was like the PE teacher in Matilda.
Yeah, I don't remember her name, but
Turnbull or some crap.
Yeah, Mrs. Turnbull or whatever.
Trunchbull.
Trunch.
That's right. That's the one. Yeah. There you go. Anyways, time for the gold medalist. I think you guys can probably guess who this is going to be. If you can't, I've got to question you. No guesses?
The
man's is hung so far down that his dad's banned from going to the freaking game. I mean, this was like these guys.
I feel that's he had to be banned, but I feel bad. And also will say it was the way it was characterized by the Pacers, John Halliburton being banned from games, quote, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
I don't, what does that mean? But
I don't know. But listen, man.
I feel like we could have just put him
Halliburton-
in a suite. Just
and
away from the court.
Might be. Anyways, Tyrese Halliburton talked his talk all series long. He always does. You know, I appreciate a man who runs his mouth. And he backed it up. And he had the drive and the dunk to send that thing in OT. And then, you know, it wasn't series on the line for the Pacers, but the chance to close the series, there he is against the man that he wrestled for the game ball with. Giannis Antetokounmpo, just out there one-on-one, blew by him. Little series in and layup, an unfortunate stare down by Pops. But series ending, blow by layup. And it
Wait,
might
what,
be,
what was the T-shirt? Overrate this or something?
no, overrate that with a tweet.
Yeah.
Might be an era-ending blow by layup for Giannis and the Bucks. So listen, man, Tyrese Halliburton, like I said, the guy was yipping and yapping and chitting and chatting the whole series long, and he definitely got the last word. Cojones Factor Player of the Month for April, the gold medalist.
what a season of Cojones Factors.
Hey, he'll enjoy this gold medal a lot more than he did that bench warming gold medal that he got in the Olympics.
I want to tell you that is not true, but all right. The Get Up production meeting is in 15 minutes.
Ooh, windy sleep update, baby. Windy sleep update.
Oh boy. All right. Thank you, Mr. Pelton. Thank you, Mr. MacMahon. Thank you to Jackson, the producer. Congratulations to Bontemps. Mostly congratulations to Mrs. Bontemps, but
Yeah.
all right. We'll allow it. Thank you for listening and watching to the Hoop Collective. We will talk to you in a couple of days.
I definitely want to congratulate Bontemps. I don't think he needs to join us again until that kid's at least done with kindergarten. Adios, amigos.